So Helene and I are putting together a series of videos and audios under the title Heritage and Legacy, Tending the Garden of Becoming. Let me explain what that title means. That kind of encapsulates everything we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Since the early 70s, we have been seriously working with and dedicated to young people, children, adolescents, young adults, on really three things: their education, developing their intellect to carry it as far as it'll possibly go, character, the kind of people they become noble, strong, courageous, productive, all those good qualities. We've had a feeling to work with young people that way.
Yeah.
And then finally, even to help young people struggle to find purpose in life. We can't give them the purpose, but we can lead them to a struggle for that. So in all, we use the word now to teach children to become, teach young people how to become the best version of who you are, the most productive version of you are, the most compassionate and caring version of who you are. So this phrase, heritage and legacy, have obviously two meanings. Heritage looks at the history of what we have accumulated and learned. And legacy indicates we'd like to give back to next generation of parents, next generation of teachers, whatever we've learned in this garden of becoming, what we've learned about children developing in these three areas.
By heritage, we also mean that we feel like we're standing on the shoulders of educators, researchers, and child development. By having gone back to we're going to say more about that in a minute, but yeah, there's a heritage that we appreciate.
Yeah, so the first question you can say, well, who are you to give suggestions on how to develop academics, how to develop character, how to help children in the search for truth? And there's three things, and I think this is our credibility layer. We're not going to, even though we do have advanced degrees, I don't think that's really our strength nearly as much as these three things. Number one, next fall, the 2021 school year will be my 49th year. It'll be Helene's 47th year.
He's got two years on me.
That's 96 years with focus. We've just been working on this one thing. Why? It's just serendipitous. So we've invested our professional life and much of our personal life in figuring these things out, how to help young people become, how to give them the top-notch education, how to develop their character, and how to help them begin to struggle for what is true for them and to find purpose in their life. So number one, you're talking about almost a century of experience focused on one thing. And fortunately, we still love each other. That's the best part. Even after working together for all these years. So that's number one. It's unique. It's unique. It's not our only credibility, but it's a big part of it. Secondly is we have been pretty careful to do what I would call an intellectual endeavor. That's the heritage part. To study. You don't develop a school, or you don't come up with a philosophy of education just off the top of your head. Unfortunately, many times that's what happens in education. Somehow somebody thinks they've got an idea that nobody's ever heard of before, and they're going to start a school or they're going to start a program. The fact of the matter is, once we knew this is the direction we wanted to go, you've got to know what's come before you. That's the beginning of a real intellectual approach. At least as long ago as Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, people have been concerned about education. Of course, much longer than that. Well, through history, what education has done is you pick up what has worked, what kind of pedagogy, what kind of content has affected children and educated them well, and what has not. Everything's not right, nor is everything wrong. You can't throw everything out. You've got to learn from history. And that applies to studies and research for at least the last 150 years related to how education has developed, a liberal tradition, traditional education, classical liberal education, progressive education. For the last 35, 40 years, this kind of standards-based education. In every one of them, there's something to be learned. And there's something that you don't want to perpetuate because it's not valuable for children's becoming. And the same thing would apply to what we'd call studies or research in child development issues, in psychology, in human development issues. These issues are not new. And what the cognitive sciences teach us, what the social sciences teach us, it's a constant learning. And part of what we've done is to be very serious about, we're not scholars, not going to push ourselves off as something, but to be pretty darn familiar with what researchers and people who also have been serious about academic training, how children learn, how their character is developed. We've been disciples of many, many great men and women over the last 150 years. And of course, as we go through these videos, we will name drop. We're not going to make this stuff up. I'm going to tell you the people that we've benefited from because we really feel we're standing on their shoulders. We wouldn't know what we know had we not been serious about understanding what others have learned. And sometimes we found it useful, sometimes not. And that comes to the third piece of what I think we kind of have a unique posture in claiming we'd like to share what we've learned. And that is we have been involved face-to-face and in the classroom doing the actual work of teachers and counselors for this. Like I said, it's going to be my 49th year next year. So what it does is you study, you learn what history has told you, you learn what research is telling you, you learn what the cognitive sciences are telling you. But when you're working with a third grader or a fifth grader or a seventh grader or a teenager, it sifts through what you can apply and what you can't apply. Sometimes, great research is done at a university by scholars, but what it looks like with different children at a different time, at different age level, can vary. So to this day, I'm still teaching mathematics. Eileen's still teaching reading and poetry. I still do some teaching of writing. And so I work with the kids. And then you find out what is it from your wealth of knowledge about education, knowledge about character development, has to be adjusted. It's not exact. So these three things, so when in this phrase, heritage and legacy, tending the garden of becoming, the tending part is our sharing. Everything we've learned, and we are not saying what we say is true, that it's holy grail. That's not the case. There's suggestions of all our experience, some principles, some ideas, almost all of it is gleaned from other people and mixed with our experience. And we just feel, we're at a time of life that we need to give back. We have been blessed in our working with children for all these years and being guided by people who are beyond us in their knowledge of education, of character development, of human development. We've learned and we've applied it. And we thought the best thing we can do, we're kind of using this time of pandemic found our own silver lining. Let's take the time now to share as much as we can about what we've learned. And we'll go into details too about reading and math, very concrete things. We'll talk about character, talk about academics, and we'll talk about helping children find meaning in their life. And hopefully they'll be helpful. Not so much as you're going to practice what we tell you, but it's a part of your arsenal as you work with your children, as you work with, if you're a teacher, you work with a classroom. This is part of accumulating that breadth of understanding and knowledge. And now you, as a unique individual, apply it in your classroom with your children to the unique body of children or child that you're working with. and hopefully we will be giving you fertilizer to spread on the garden of becoming with the children that you work with.
Yeah. So what we've tried to do is tend this garden, research and child development and academics and character, and try to apply it to our experience, tending, and we'd like to pass that attending of the Garden of Becoming onto you for as much as you find helpful for your own children and students.
Okay, so the videos and the audios will be coming out at different times. I think they'll be on the Birchwood's website, and we do hope they will be helpful to you.